Namaskar, everyone. It's an honor for us at Keshasuri Foundation to welcome you all to this discussion wherein we are celebrating 5 years of career independence. So, first of all, before we begin, a huge congratulations and really looking forward to what life holds on to for each one of us ahead. But for now, a very happy and remarkable 5 years of queer freedom in India. Like we always say that it's very important to celebrate the present where we are in, and like we all oftentimes discuss that take one step at a day. So today is the day when 5 years back Supreme Court decriminalized section 377 homosexuality from India, and the right of to love, to be accepted is what came along. It is a sheer privilege for each one of us to be amidst people like each one of you here today with us, to be celebrating this day. Why? Because I always say that had it not been the people from the community taken it on themselves who came out before this actually got decriminalized, they literally took a lot of courage and, of course, a lot of risk onto themselves to make it easy and acceptable for people beyond. So, a moment of actually expressing our gratitude to all those who have filed petition, who weren't maybe able to file petition but did contribute to this struggle, to all the lawyers who had contributed and fought really hard to get equal access and opportunity, to get people the right to be themselves. And like in one of the statements, one of the judges also mentioned that I am what I am and take me as who I am. This is how we are going to take this discussion forward as well. So my name is Akshay Tyagi. My pronouns are he and his. I take care of diversity, equity, and inclusion and do manage the Keshav Suri Foundation. I am equally honored today to be amidst each one of you because you are our fellows of this year's batch from Queer Youth Leadership course. And it was really amazing to be in your company, to understand the passion that you carry with yourself about the community, to work with the community, and the sense of pride that you carry with yourself. Having said that, I would like each one of you to help our audience understand about your personality, about yourself, about what you are extremely passionate about, and what do you do exactly in quick 2 minutes introductions, and then we'll take it forward. So start with Rio.
Hi, thank you so much for such a warm welcome. And congratulations to everyone. It's been 5 years now. So my name is Rio. I go by he and him. I am currently a student of management. I'm studying MBA from in an Institute of Management, Kashipur. Apart from that, if I have to like sort of tell what my passion has been in terms of be it working with the community, it started with more on the aspect of social activism in terms of creating spaces within colleges to support queer people. From there it evolved in a way that I realized there's a lot of lagging when it comes to job skills and the job market. So my focus shifted from there to there throughout the years. It's been, I would say, 3-4 years now. Pretty young so far, so just still like exploring and understanding myself and the community along the way. So yeah, that's more or less about me.
Great. And like it's very evident that young people are the ones going to do a lot more better because the onus now lies on the young people to actually work on the trajectory that our ancestors or our people from the community in the past have laid down for each one of us. Abhishek, why don't you take a read now?
Okay, so I'm Abhishek. So I'm a research scholar in IIT Delhi, and I go by the pronouns he, him. So uh, I'm in my late 20s, not that young, but then still my heart is young, and we have been working for like we are like I co-founded an NGO, and with this NGO, which is at its infancy, we are going to various schools and educating the educators about the LGBTQI community and the kind of problems the LGBTQI students have to face at schools, and because of which there has been dropouts and how students commit suicides. So with this initiative that we've taken, we are educating not just the educators also, but also the students. We're talking about the queer history. We're talking about the whole journey of liberation of queer people. And we've formed a small group, and maybe this will flourish in the near future.
Great.
That's it.
Thank you. And education is the key to bring in the change. And thank you for doing the incredible work that you are doing in this space. Sumit, why don't you take it forward? You come from Assam, and there is amazing work that you also carry with yourself, and would like to hear more from you.
Hello everyone, it has been nice seeing you all after so long. So yeah, I'm Sumit Ghosh. I go by she and her pronouns. I'm currently pursuing graduation in Dispur College. I have been working in education sector for like 2-3 years, and associating with Hobdo, another organization, queer-based organization. We have been working with the the education sector to educate, to create more advocate for entire queer community. And recently I have been working associated with Sunitpur Transgender Welfare Association. So this is how it is going. And yeah, I've recently started transitioning, so yeah. it's a
Great, great. So thank you for your journey on affirmation and celebration, moreover, of your own self. So, and all the very best for that as well. Dolphin,
Hello everyone, my name is Dolphin. It's my nickname. My name is Harshita. I go by either name and all pronouns work for me. So I just completed my master's in English literature and now I'm teaching in Jaipur. And one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to get into education or teaching, as Abhishek has said, it's very important. This is where it starts. I don't want any of my students to sit in that shame that we had to soak in that shame in those formative years can be so devastating. So I want to create a safe space for my students. And of course, I'll have to start small and very slow because it has been 5 years, but not to be very negative, but it does not still feel that freeing. Like I cannot tell my school about my identity. I have to be very careful about it. And also, when last thing is that when we call something or term something as normal, we are automatically creating another division or subsection that is deviant.
agreed.
So that is something I want to break that notion, especially in education.
Great. Thank you, Dolphin, and thank you for all the great work that you are doing. It's very, very important because especially school is one of the reason why there are so many people who actually fail to fight instead with the words, because a lot of time you don't listen to your parents, but you agree to what your teachers are saying, and then you find a discomfort being there. Then the fellows in your classrooms are not the ones who are supportive to you. Then your whole self, which you are wanting to live either at home or outside, you don't get a favorable environment in any. And a lot of times, especially if you talk about transgender persons, they are the community which oftentimes have to succumb to whatnot in their lives because of no understanding. And it's very, very important that we take education as that important aspect of our work when it comes to inclusion of people from marginalized sections, that the power of knowledge is easily be understood by everybody. And thank you for that great work. So moving on, Abina, I would actually like to introduce you first thing that Nepal as a country is doing exceptionally well. And thank you for your advocacy. Thank you for the leadership that Nepal has, and you are contributing to the work there. I think oftentimes it's very, very important for us to take inspiration and also feel aspirational for the work that our neighbors are doing. And having said that, it was really, really amazing to learn and understand the beauty of Nepal through the work that you and Swastika both carried with yourself to our Queer Youth Leadership Program this year, supported by Canada Consulates. Having said that, today, the whole idea of us celebrating 5 years of queer independence in India We want to understand from you how has been this journey now that you have marriage equality also in place, being in Nepal, celebrating that, and how has been the journey so far for you?
So thank you so much. Hi, namaste everyone. Nice to see you again. This is Abina Kachwal and I am 20 years old and I pronounce myself she and her. I am from Kathmandu, Nepal. And thank you so much for having me here and thank you so much for giving this opportunity me today. And Nepal is like obviously we are facing a lot of problems since past.
We, Abina, we can't hear you, so you have to repeat.
So, like Nepal have just legalized same-sex marriage, and we are so proud of that. We have fighting for our equality, our opportunity, and we did it. And I just want to tell that I hope that India will do it so far. So many peoples I have seen that Indian peoples, especially queer peoples, are fighting for their opportunities and rights.
Thank you, Abina. I think our struggle has not just about fighting, but also about having a lot of binds. Because whilst, of course, a lot it sounds like a battle, but it's a battle which is fought with hearts and minds and with a lot of positivity. I think we have to give it to the community that for years there have not been a struggle in terms of getting people together on the streets and fighting for rights, but has always been very positive. Pride marches have always been very positive messages that have gone out to support our people, to support the work that our community has been doing. And today we are celebrating all of that. And like
Yeah.
I said, that young people are the ones who are going to take it forward from where it is now. And there is a lot of responsibility, there is a lot of accountability that is to be put on to each one of us, because this is the reflection. And oftentimes the onus, I'm taking it from Harisha here, the onus of inclusion lies on those who are included. And we all are somewhat coming from some privilege in our own spaces to be able to speak up for the rights and the benefits of the queer people, of people from various marginalized communities, and to be there in that space wherein everybody feels reflected and represented. Having said that, Northeast is still one of those regions which is, of course, you talk about some margins, then there is various intersections, and within those marginalized, Northeast again is one of those sections which is fighting. There's a lot going on within that environment. Sumit, you are currently a student, your own activism has been of many years now. How do you see the impact of section 377 decriminalization since 5 years now, and where do you envision, like now that we are in conversation around marriage equality as well, where do you see country going forward?
Okay, so the verdict obviously has been okay. It's a fun story. Let me share. The day when I got to know that okay, Section 377 has been decriminalized, that was for the first time I came to know. Oh, there was something called Section 377. Oh, and homosexuality was a sin. So I didn't, and that was for the first time where I was dating a guy and knowing that oh, yesterday night I was a criminal and now I'm not. So the shift, it was a huge thing. Um, okay, I forgot your question. What was it?
Okay, so now that we are decriminalized for 5 years now, where do you see country going forward? Because we are in discussion of marriage equality. There is a lot of work that has happened in this space as well. From the point of view of Assam, where do you see our work going forward?
um, can I take a few time, a few moment?
Definitely, definitely. So, meanwhile, can I go back to Abhishek now? Abhishek, you are somebody who has been, of course, at IIT Delhi, and then your own advocacy work, especially in education, is something that has been inspiring to a lot of people. We have seen a couple of your events with the school students as well. So oftentimes when we are discussing about marriage equality, same-sex persons, awareness about the LGBTQI community, where do you see change coming in from the education point of view? And what are some of the things that you recommend that schools should be doing in order to mainstream the communities that are still at the margins?
So there's a lot of hate, and this hate which is there incorporated into the hearts and minds of these kids, these students, is basically because of the inherent biases that they have against the community, the whole LGBTI community. Uh, and this hate is because of ignorance and not proper understanding of the terminologies. So what we do is we go to schools, we educate them about what is LGBTQI, what does it stand for, and what are the problems or the plight of this whole community. And we brief them about the queer history, and we give them examples of proper representation of the people belonging from this community, be it doctors, people from Bollywood, or writers, or politicians, and the kind of history that we have had in the past, or maybe some insightful stories from mythology or the oral tradition in India. And maybe with this, the students get very inquisitive about many things, and gradually we are trying to invoke empathy into the hearts of students for each other, so that the other students who find or who identify themselves from the LGBTI community do not have to face bullying or maybe sexual harassment at times in schools, or they don't have to feel ashamed about their own existence, and they can confidently accept their own self. Because like while I was growing up, it was difficult for me to accept my own self or my true identity. Although sexuality is not your identity is always the work that you do and whatever you contribute to the society. But then we have to emphasize on sexuality as well, because so far till 2018 we were criminals, right? And the kind of change that I see now, the educational institutions are actually inviting us to talk on these issues like LGBTQI, or how to promote a more inclusive uh, student curricula. So what we do is we also educate the educators, as in how can you shape the syllabus in such a way so that there is some sort of visibility of queer people. For instance, when you're teaching a particular subject, a particular chapter, say maybe from literature or maybe from science, in age appropriate manner, how can you bring queer representation, maybe from the field of science or sports, or maybe history, like when you're teaching Mughal history, there were many transgender generals uh, who were actually ruling over Bengal or maybe parts of other parts of India. So why don't you talk about those transgender people? Why don't you talk about queer writers who have been contributing to literature as well? So all this we have been teaching, through movies, maybe good movies like maybe the regional movies like Chitrangada by late Rituparna Ghosh, Nagar Kirtan, which are Bengali movies, or maybe Kapoor and Sons, which is a very decent and a very good Bollywood movie, because for the first time, proper representation of a homosexual man I've seen there. Because if we go in the past, we see a very improper representation of a homosexual person, with a very creepy music going on in the background, and men only seeking for sex, as if that is only what matters, and nothing else matters in life. So that is what we do. And yes, there's a lot of backlash from many people, even from the educators as well, when we go to universities. So some people do not like it, they'll be passing on bad comments and they leave. So we are ready for that as well.
Thank you, Abhishek. I'll tell you that it of course takes a lot. I was myself in Jamia Millia Islamia, and when I was doing my project with the community, To start with, it wasn't very accepting affair because it was in 2016. A lot of people had their own biases. Having said that, there are a lot of people, and of course, there is a religion bias as well in that institution because of the kind of setup that we had. And a lot of notions that you carry with yourself that made it a lot of resistance come in, and a lot of people had their own thoughts. And then when you interact with the communities, then you understand how much important it is for us to work on this. And that is where your allyship comes in if you're really wanting to. And this is why I always say that you and your identity is one aspect of your life, and then there are stories of many others. Your story could be similar to people who you are meeting in your life, but is it same? No. And hence every story matters that is coming your way. In order to do that, school is the place wherein people should respect the individual for who they are, irrespective of what it brings to the table, not brings to the table. But the very sense of belonging will only come in when there is a mutual respect for each other, especially with queer folks, because the other person doesn't have understanding, because the teachers doesn't understand what it takes to be this person, because their understanding has also been very limited. The community suffers. A lot of things change when it comes to legal acceptance towards something. And my question next is to you, Rio. What according to you, because now that we are talking about legal acceptance, we are talking about social acceptance, we are talking about so much more, how do you see it changing? And how do you see that after decriminalization of Section 377 and having legal acceptance come in, how have been these 5 years for the country in that space?
Very well put, Akshay and Abhishek. Uh, I think, Abhina, can you please mute yourself? I think 377, like the decriminalization in itself was a big step, and it was the right step in the right direction. But when it comes to these big steps, the next question is what next? Because we are still like treated as second class citizens in the country. And the Supreme Court, to a certain level, acknowledges that, which we have seen even in the marriage equality arguments that have been put in the court. Then comes the Transgender Persons of Protection Act 2019 and the rule that was put into the 2020. So these are the questions we need to ask when we like talk about the queer rights at like a bigger scale. When we talk about like if I have to talk specifically about ICC, let's say, POSH doesn't cover other genders or any gender at all, even though the policies are becoming inclusive in workspaces, but legally they're still not there. So these are the questions I think, and I believe that we need to really ask when we look at one segment of the community, be it in terms of homosexuality. It's also important we look at it from the other side. What are we doing for trans people? What are we doing for intersex people? Where are we in those regards? So I again think it's also one step at a time. So we are in the right direction when it comes to marriage equality. But also, I believe that whenever these battles are being picked, it's important that these battles are picked in the right proportion as well. So I would, as a trans person, because my trans identity is something that becomes a bigger scale of oppression for me when it comes to be it public spaces, be it college spaces, or be it corporate spaces. So I believe those are the fights that are also very important to be taken forward in the next few years. But I think we are in the right track, so it's somewhere close. So yeah.
Thank you, Rio. Dolphin, I'll come to you next. You work with the students at the campus, and then you also interact with a lot of queer people in the space. You very recently moved to Jaipur, so now you have a mixed understanding of communities across regions as well. Mental health, in specific, is one of those issues which is still not much talked about. Like, it's strange, but the country had to see deaths of some Bollywood stars, a lot of these page 3 stories to understand that, okay, something like this also exists. Especially people who are on the margins, their struggle is not even known to a lot of psychologists because they are not in that shoe. They don't understand because there is no study which is focusing on understanding about the community. And then there is a plethora of identities. There are situations which are not mainstream situations, very less attendance when it comes to the counselors who are queer affirmative. How do you say people like yourself, people like on this panel, the young leaders from the queer space, understanding the importance of mental health in last 5 years, now that we see a lot of coming out stories and a lot of people affirming to who they are, changing the dialogues, and how important do you think peer counseling comes in this sense of movement?
These are all excellent questions that we need to talk about. So to start with the students and their mental health, again, the students that I have to deal with, they are so young, they're in class 6. So right now they do not understand a lot of things about themselves because they're discovering. They're stretching their boundaries, they're learning, can they do this, can they do that? And at this time, again, it's very sad to say that parents and even teachers do not take their mental health seriously. Oh, it's just a child. A child cannot be sad. A child cannot be depressed. But it is a sad reality. Bullying is a very real thing. So your mental health is not equivalent or there's no direct proportion to your age. Second, again, with mental health, now people have started talking about it. Now we have found out, okay, we can go to a therapist, and CBSE schools are supposed to have counselors, but still many do not have. I'm very happy that we have counselors on our school. But again, as you said, they're not queer formative. Even in my college, my counselor had to say, I'm sorry, there are things that I do not understand, and you have to find someone better. So I can appreciate the fact that she was very aware about that. But again, we have to ask our mental health practitioners to learn about this. And they can never be in our shoe, but they often unknowingly or knowingly nullify our problems and our struggles. So that can again be just very derogative and not derogative, but detrimental to our health, mental health. And when it comes to mental health, the mental health, when somebody is not out and when someone is finally out, has started coming out, but it's a never ending process, it changes. There's so many fluctuations. So it's so important to have our people around. I think peers, and that can be so helpful, especially for our community, because many times professionals may not be able to provide that help that our co-peers can, because they understand. To have somebody's presence and support can sometimes be the most important thing, especially when someone is on the brink of something terrible. Something terrible could happen. And also, last thing that I want to say, when we are different marginalized communities, intersectional, we are subalterns, we cannot speak up. People do not want us to listen. The system is not made in that manner. And then to talk about mental health when it's already still frowned upon. People have started talking about depression and anxiety, but when they actually see someone who's depressed, their problems are nullified, they are made fun of. And then if you start talking about other issues such as schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, it suddenly becomes the person is seen as a abusive person or someone who's scary. And again, the person is pushed into the margin. So there's so many intersections that are created where people are suffering. And slowly, we have to find a way to not only educate ourselves, but also talk to the professionals, because it's on their hands. And again, lastly, we have to be with each other. The community has to support itself within the community. Thank you.
I just cannot disagree more here. Agree more here, rather.
I'm so scared. What did I say?
No, I just it was so important, and especially because a lot of us, even if you talk about the larger spectrum of people that exist and which actually brings in the umbrella of all the identities, be it LGBTQIA plus, heterosexual, any sort of identity, be it person with disability at any intersection. It is very, very important for us to take that moment of understanding what it takes to be in that space, which is not happening. And that's why it is so easier for everybody to question a lot of reservation schemes, a lot of policies, a lot of work that has been happening also. But what is not happening is the very important task, which is to just give out some time and reach out to community and speak to them. It's again very disappointing. A lot of Garima Grahas as well are struggling with the funding. A lot of work is still to be done. Now that we're talking about a lot of work, the power of allyship is something that all of us have seen in some way or other. Of course, I will not say that we haven't reached a significant point as well in our journey of last 5 years, because there is so much that has happened in this country. There are number of amazing things that we can list down in last 5 years that have happened in the benefit in order to mainstream the communities that we are working with. So my question is for you now. How do you see the power of allyship coming into full force, and how important it is for us to create more allies? Because again, the narrative will only be changed when the community also invest in that narrative that way. So creating leaders, having buy-in from the people who are still not allies or having not sure of the idea of different identities, how to have their buy-ins. And this is what I want to understand from you.
Okay. I personally believe in dialogues. I personally believe in conversation. I personally believe in visibility. When when there's more visibility of certain things, there are a recognition of that thing more properly, right? So that's how we learn. And as an example, my friends of my classmates, basically my schoolmates, they never knew about such thing called gay or lesbian or whatever thing, and because of which I faced bullies. And now, since now they know about it, they have seen it online, or like they have friends now, and they have people to have conversation about it. They know about it, and now they are more supportive about it, and now they call themselves as an ally. So I think this is how it begins: visibility, and the second is conversation. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, you did. And thank you. It's very important. And I think dialogue is important in every set of conversation that we are expecting people to be part of. If there are no dialogues, there will never be a change. Because every time you're speaking, somebody is like, oh my God, is that also happening? And that is what they need to see and understand. Abina, how has been your journey in Nepal in specific? How has been the growing up? How has been looking around and finding that one ally for yourself? How has been the support of organizations that work in that space?
So thank you so much. And like in Nepal, we are just looking forward for the peoples, especially queer peoples, are facing a lot of problems in our country, and we are going forward for them because even before 5 years, like after 5 years, before 5 years, that we are judging people so unconsciously. So we are just in the mood of returning that we are going to have some changes in our society, and uh, finally it's done now. Like people are just accepting us, loving us, supporting us. And Sumit had just told conversation is very important. If we conversate people, if we share our feelings, like if we say some things for ourselves, then only something there is a changes. So like in Nepal we accept ourselves, like people are accepting us, loving us, and that's it.
Thank you, Abina. Now I'll have a common question for you all, and that you are doing some amazing work in your respective spaces. But what is more important and will always remain important is to how to keep that on. Because like I said, there are a lot many of us who start on something. Not everybody find it right space, time to remain there and to carry forward the advocacy they start with, because then of course as you grow up there are a number of things that becomes more important to keep your life on, and there is no denial, everything is important. Having said that, when we are bringing in the leaders, when we are talking about the leadership, when we are talking about the people who want to take that beacon and be that beacon of hope for rest of the community members, it becomes extremely important for us to ensure that no matter where or what space we are in, we queer the pitch. And how we queer the pitch is bringing in the elements of queer community in every conversation. So my last question to each one of you is, how do you see your work growing in next years, of course the years ahead, and how do you see these 5 years translating into some really good changes, and what are the recommendations for the rest of the community, for allies, for organizations that you as an individual want to put forth in order to make more inclusive and acceptable society for each one of us? And I'll also mention, acceptance comes from within. Hence, instead of creating more acceptance society, I think we should be looking at more appreciative society. And that is from where we will be able to actually reach at some point wherein everybody feels celebrated for who they are. Because otherwise, none of us need any sort of an acceptance from anybody, because the very feeling of you carrying yourself and taking pride in your own self is enough for you to be accepted. What we need is the appreciation for us to be like this. So we'll start with Rio.
Yes, sure. So yeah, as you said, accept more than acceptance, it's about being appreciated. I feel it's very important that as queer people, as you were saying, queering the pitch, it's also about making sure that queer people are represented at various possible places, be it public spaces, be it corporate spaces, or be it government institutions as well. So when we talk about it, I'm not saying that they should be visible only at the bottom of the pyramid. It's also important that they take senior leadership positions within these domains, so that the policies that are built, they're also even if it's not being queered or queering the pitch, it's by default very inclusive in its essence, by default very intersectional in its essence. When I look around my work or the work of any queer individual that I interact with, I feel that whenever we talk about activism or any sort of advocacy, it's very taxing. It is almost a full-time job, so to say. Um, During that sphere, to even keep a check on one's own mental health, to make sure that they are also growing and succeeding in their own life, it sometimes gets very hard. So in that space, it's almost next to impossible at times to sustain oneself and sustain the movement that they at their individual as well as their social and structural level are trying to create. When that comes in place, I believe that whenever I look at my work, I don't look at it as my work or as something that I'm running or creating. I look at it as a community effort. I look at it as it's a community support group. For example, I created this small job group where we constantly keep posting, if there are availability of jobs, because I would want to see more queer people getting jobs, even if they are, in abusive households, so that they can get out of those places and be financially independent, which is the prima facie in all these scenarios. So that job group was created to ensure that, people create a community support group for their own self, be it in terms of job referrals, be it in terms of getting each other jobs. So this is how I want to look at community care, because I believe all the structural legal changes are the ones that are needed for long-term sustenance. While those structural changes will take time, it's important in the process of it, we constantly collectively as a community keep working by small baby steps. So yeah.
100%. And collective responsibility is something which is very important. And having everybody together from their own space. It's not like expecting people to be leading for the entire change journey from the same space. Everybody is in their own time and space, but having that
Definitely.
contribution come in from the space they are and celebrating that is very, very important. Because whilst of course we're celebrating queer independence, we need to acknowledge the people who are still in the closet but have contributed to this journey. We need to acknowledge the contribution of people who maybe have not been able to celebrate this independence on their own selves, but have fought a number of battles to get us this day today. So, having said that, let's go to Dolphin now.
Before I say anything, I want to say that Rio was very, very supportive during my finding a job journey. I am in the group he has created for queer people to find jobs. He's so active and he's so involved in it. And again, everyone in my fellowship program, QILC group, they've been so supportive. And as you said, it's about appreciation. Secondly, it's whatever we are doing is not just for us. We are not creating something for us, because when we say we want to help people, we are trying to teach them that they do not know something, that we are better than them. And again, this community work doing together. And my 5-year plan is again to invite more people to my school to create sensitivity and spread kindness. So maybe one day my school will be, let's say, open enough to have queer educators come in. Maybe I'll get invite Abhishek to my school. That would be great.
Thank you so much, Dolphin. Abhishek, why don't you share with us now?
I think we'll have to move to your school where you're teaching. So we have started educating the educators, the counselors, and these teachers, how to create a more inclusive environment. We also talk about mental health there and how the government guidelines, you also talk about the government guidelines, be it the RMSA and the NCRT guidelines on how you should be having at least one female and one male counselor, certified counselor who has a psychology degree and not merely someone who studied pedagogy or has a diploma or 6-month or a 1-year diploma in psychology. So all this we are teaching. In these 5 years, like 5 years down the lane, what we are looking forward to is we are trying to approach, we are trying to reach more and more government schools, because in elite schools and private schools where the elite students are studying, the conditioning is different. The problems are different, but the problems in government schools are far more worse. And these government institutions have to be reached immediately. And somehow we are finding ways to reach them. We are speaking to their principals, or we are having discussions. Let's see in which way we can actually, come to a conclusion, in middle ground, in a way like where we are not also offending the parents, because at times, parents are retaliating. We get a backlash from the side of the parents. So we are also trying to, come to a middle ground where we can actually start with baby steps, and let's see how it goes.
Definitely. I think having that buy-in, and I think it's very, very important to first bring in the exposure to parents so that they see, not that there is anybody, I think, left who has not seen any transgender person on the streets. But the idea of perception about the community is very different. And that is from where the change begins. And this is why, because the transgender community is the most visible one. It's very, very important. It's highly important for us to have community being seen or heard, listened to, because otherwise it will not bring in change. It's very, very important for people to relate to stories and see what did they do. Why nobody had a transgender person openly studying in their classroom? Why not openly transgender persons were part of any of their college rooms? Why transgender persons are not still part of their office? Why transgender persons are still not the ones who they are meeting in the SDM offices? Why transgender persons are still not leading the clans? Why, of course, there are first ones we are celebrating in 2023. Is it really a good sign? I'm sorry, but no. I think we should be in a zone wherein we are like, it's a mainstream world wherein so many people are doing so many things. Technically, to me, listening to the fact that, okay, Neeraj Chopra had made this mark and this is his personal best is still exciting. But reading that the first transgender person to do that, whilst it is great, but is it really the time when we should be just talking about the first person? We should have many more people reaching that mark by just giving them that space and time to learn in. And needless to mention, a lot of transgender persons haven't been able to reach that potential because they're not supported enough. And when you are fighting the emotional, psychological, social battle within your own self, it becomes very, very difficult. And so, thank you. And now is the time for our queen from Nepal, uh, Abina. How do you see Nepal moving forward in their journey of inclusion? And what are some of the inspiration or advice do you want to give to each one of us here from your understanding of Nepal to India?
So, like, thank you so much again. And now I'm working in the project of human rights programs and HIV/AIDS in the community. I think queer people should learn about this. Like, many peoples of our community, our country are suffering from HIV/AIDS, and I go through that because I want to inspire the peoples. Now, I have recently joined the Youth Innovation, which is commonly working for the youth program. And now I just want to tell to the youth that we are the youth of the country, we are the future of the country, and we are the leader of today, tomorrow, and yesterday. And I just want to say that if we can do an amazing thing, amazing work in our society, then everything is possible in the life. Everything is possible. My journey, 5 years journey was truly amazing. I inspired myself to help people to communicate people by educated them by providing good educations to the people, and that's why I'm able to sit here before today, because I want to inspire the people of today, of my community, my queer community. And in Nepal, I'm working in the project of human rights programs and mental health programs in Nepal. I'm 20 years old now, and many people of in Nepal, like they used to say that in life is not possible, and I want to inspire them by giving education, by promoting the quality of education to the children who are upcoming in our community. So that's it, because Nepal is facing, even the half of queer peoples of Nepal are facing a lot of problems. They are feeling awkward to come out to show their true colors in the society. And many people are watching me today, and I'm going to share this live also. And I want to say that be yourself, love yourself, accept yourself, and everything is possible in the life. Time will come, and don't feel hesitate to came up also. And that is the most inspiration and motivation for me. Exactly.
Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing your amazing thoughts and the great work that you all are doing with the community. It's very, very important for us to acknowledge the fact that it is only by not changing yourself that you are changing the world. So first of all, a huge congratulations to each one of you for not just accepting, appreciating, and also celebrating yourself all this while. Because had it not been your courage and determination to be you today, this day would not have come. So again, thanks for everyone who has joined us today to watch us live, who are going to see this video in near future. A huge thanks to each one of you as well. And thanks to our amazing speakers who joined us today to celebrate this evening with each one of us here. I would like to take this as an opportunity to tell all our viewers that it is very, very important that we all take this as an opportunity on our own to share the right messages around the LGBTQ spectrum, because social media, when everybody is, of course, all the time scrolling the reels, the videos, etc., it is imperative and important for everybody to ensure that the right content goes viral. And people who are in either ways demeaning the community or are putting a bad light on the community, we need to report that. It's very, very important that we share the right content. It is very, very important to ensure that our community feels safe when they are at the social media platforms. It is important that our messages goes across. It is important that our allyship doesn't stand or makes us out of the crowd whenever we talk about our allyship, and hence you are not important and you are not really required to call yourself, or no, but I am still an ally in your conversations when you're talking about queer people. It is our community, it is all of us together who has to lead the change. And we always discuss that by you have to, in order to bring the change, you have to be the change. So I think it's time. Let's take some inspiration from each one of us on this forum today, and inspiration from all the people who have contributed to the significant difference that had come in last 5 years and many years of struggle, of course. And let's envision a world wherein we make so many more queer people feel safe, represented, reflected, celebrated, valued for who they are in true sense. Thank you again for joining us. Have a great evening, and let's hope that next year when we are coming together to celebrate and mark this evening, we'll have some more rights, privileges as a whole to celebrate and talk about, and a lot bigger picture to discuss. On that note, thank you everyone who has joined us today. Thank you Keshasuri Foundation for creating this space. Thanks to all our viewers. Thanks again to Canada Consulates to have supported our leadership program. Thanks to Deepak Kashyap for facilitating that entire program. And thanks to each one of you for making that successful. On that note, namaskar everyone. See you soon in some other conversation. Namaskar.